Have you ever asked yourself, why do I always attract the broken ones? The ones who come with baggage, who bring storms, who take and take until there's nothing left of you. It feels like a curse, but it's not. It's a pattern, one that's been shaping you quietly for years. You see, most people won't talk about this. They'll tell you to choose better or raise your standards, but they don't understand the pull, the magnetic force that draws pain to empathy, chaos to calm. The truth is, broken people aren't just random encounters. They're mirrors. They find the cracks in you that still need healing, and they slip through. But you're not here to be a bandage. You're not here to be a rehab center for the emotionally unavailable. You're here to learn, to grow, to wake up. This isn't just another list of traits. These are deep psychological truths, each one holding a mirror to why this keeps happening and how to finally break free from it. So, here are 7 psychological reasons you attract broken people, and we begin with the most silent one of all.
You're the safe space they never had. You don't even realize it, but your presence feels like shelter. Your calm, your softness, your ability to listen without judgment. It's magnetic to people who've only ever known chaos. When someone's spent their whole life walking on eggshells, your silence feels like peace. When they've been gaslit, controlled, or ignored, your empathy feels like a drug. And so they come. Not because they see you, but because they need to feel okay. They latch on. They call it love. But it's survival. Because in their broken mind, your patience feels like safety. Your kindness feels like healing. But here's the truth. You weren't chosen for who you are. You were chosen for what you can provide. They're not connecting to your soul. They're clinging to your calm. And the danger in this? You'll mistake their dependency for love. You'll confuse their attachment for something real. And by the time you realize, you're drowning. You've already spent months, years, trying to fix someone who doesn't even want to be whole. This is how the cycle begins. You become the safe space, and in return, you get drained. Not because you're weak, but because you were never taught to protect your light, to set boundaries, to say, I am not your healer. It's not your job to rescue people from themselves, especially when they have no intention of walking out of the darkness. They just want you to sit there with them. So ask yourself this: are they really in love with you? Or are they just addicted to how peaceful they feel in your presence?
Your energy exposes their chaos. It's not that you did something wrong, it's that you remind them of everything they're trying to hide. When you show up calm, they get louder. When you stay grounded, they act out. When you speak truth, they get defensive. Why? Because your very presence disrupts their chaos. See, people who thrive on drama, dysfunction, manipulation, they're used to controlling the room. They feed on reactions. They crave attention. They create mess because that's the only language they know. But then, you show up. You don't react. You don't match their noise. You sit in silence and observe. And that scares them. You don't need validation. You're not trying to impress. You just exist, quietly, confidently, and peacefully. And that exposes the parts of them they've never dealt with. They'll say you think you're better. They'll say you're cold. They'll even try to provoke you, just to make you feel small. Because when someone's world is built on dysfunction, your peace feels like a threat. It highlights their chaos. It reveals their insecurity. It confronts their ego. And so, instead of healing, they attack. Instead of learning from you, they resent you. You didn't hurt them. You just reminded them of everything they're avoiding. And that's the most dangerous thing you can be to a person who refuses to change. A mirror. You're wired to fix what you didn't break. You're not weak, you're wired. Wired to notice what's broken, to lean in when others pull away, to help even when it costs you everything. And somewhere along the way, you started believing your worth was measured by how much pain you could carry for someone else. Maybe you grew up around emotional chaos, unpredictable moods, people who never really saw you unless you were useful. So now, you seek familiar patterns, not because you want broken people, but because you understand them, and maybe you're hoping that if you can fix them, it'll mean someone can fix you too. But here's the truth nobody told you. You didn't cause their pain. You cannot save someone who refuses to heal, and you are not responsible for turning someone else's darkness into light. You're not a project manager for lost souls. You're not a therapist to people who won't do the work. And the more you try to save someone who's drowning, the more likely you are to get pulled under. You attract broken people because somewhere deep down, you thought their healing would give your pain a purpose. But your purpose isn't to bleed for everyone who cuts themselves on your kindness. It's to protect the light you carry, because not everyone deserves your effort, and not every broken soul wants to be whole.
You mistake intensity for connection. You think it's love, but it's just adrenaline. You think it's connection, but it's chaos disguised as passion. When someone enters your life with broken pieces, they bring drama, confusion, highs and lows. It's unpredictable. And that unpredictability gets mistaken for depth. Why? Because intensity feels like something real. They trauma dump on day one. They tell you no one's ever understood them like you do. They mirror your pain so well, you start to think, this must be fate. But it's not fate. It's emotional addiction. You're bonding over wounds, not values. You're connecting through pain, not peace. And the problem is, once you've been starved of emotional safety, you start to crave any kind of feeling, even if it hurts. So you stay, you rationalize, you tell yourself, this is what love is supposed to feel like. But love isn't meant to leave you exhausted. Real connection doesn't drain you. It doesn't come with games, control, or confusion. Intensity isn't intimacy. It's often just trauma speaking louder than your boundaries. So if you keep attracting broken people, ask yourself this: do I know how to receive calm? Do I know how to sit in silence without needing to fix something or someone? Because sometimes the loudest chaos we feel is just our unhealed self, begging us to wake up. You're addicted to being needed. There's a part of you that feels most alive when someone else is falling apart. You don't just help, you need to help. You crave it. Because somewhere deep down, you learned that your worth comes from what you can give, not who you are. You've been the strong one, the one who always picks up the pieces. You became their therapist, their anchor, their safety net. But here's the painful truth. If being needed is the only way you feel valued, you will always attract people who are broken. Not because they love you, but because you make them feel better, while you slowly disappear. You think you're helping, but you're actually enabling. You think you're healing them, but you're just bleeding for them. And the worst part? They don't usually thank you. They leave, once they've taken everything. Because you didn't show them how to stand, you carried them. And in doing so, you taught them that your love means never having to try. This is not love. It's self-erasure dressed up as compassion. You deserve to be chosen, not because you're useful, but because you're you. Until you believe that, you'll keep attracting people who don't. You confuse intensity with love. They came in fast, the connection was instant, the conversations were deep, the emotions were overwhelming. And you told yourself, this must be love, because it felt like a storm. But real love doesn't come crashing in like a hurricane. Real love is calm, steady, safe. What you felt was intensity, not intimacy, chaos, not connection. See, when you've grown up around emotional instability, you start to believe that love has to hurt, that love must feel like walking on glass or trying to earn your place every single day. So when someone stable shows up, it feels boring. When someone treats you gently, you doubt it. Because your nervous system is wired for war, not peace. And that's why you attract the broken, because their chaos feels familiar. Their wounds mirror yours. You don't realize it, but you're trying to rewrite your past through people who are just as wounded. But here's the truth. Love isn't supposed to feel like survival. It's supposed to feel like home. And until you untangle that confusion, you'll keep calling heartbreak passion and pain connection. You try to rescue people instead of rebuilding yourself. You see someone hurting, and your first instinct is to save them. You hear their pain, and suddenly fixing them becomes your purpose. You believe, if I can just love them enough, if I stay long enough, if I understand them deeply enough, they'll heal. But what about you? You're bleeding too. You're tired. You've been breaking yourself just to hold them together. It's not love. It's self-abandonment wearing the mask of compassion. People who are deeply wounded often try to heal others, not because they're whole, but because healing someone else feels safer than facing their own broken pieces. It gives them meaning. It gives them distraction. But here's the danger. When your worth is built on saving others, you attract people who always need saving. And that becomes your cycle. Caretaker, fixer, rescuer, but never the one who receives. You pour into others, hoping one day someone will finally do the same for you. But healing doesn't come from being needed. It comes from being whole. And until you learn to rescue yourself first, you'll always find yourself in relationships where your role is to sacrifice and never to rest. You attract broken people, not because you're weak, but because your heart still believes in healing what others gave up on. You carry light, even when the world tried to dim it. But that same light, it attracts moths as much as it does stars. Now you know why. It's not random, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to protect your peace. You can still be kind without bleeding for everyone. You can still love deeply without losing yourself. If any of this felt like your story, you're not alone. Leave a comment. Share what you've carried, what you've survived. Because maybe your words will be the reason someone else finally lets go of what's hurting them. Like this video if it spoke to your soul. And subscribe if you're walking this quiet path with us. The path of strength, silence, and self-mastery.